Let me start with a simple sentence that might sound dramatic, but I promise you, it's not. It's just honest. Here it is. AI is coming to life. And most people have no idea what that actually means. They hear the phrase and think of robots taking over or machines suddenly growing feelings overnight. But that's not the reality. The real change is quieter, more subtle, and honestly, much more interesting. See, when people talk about AI coming to life, they usually imagine something that looks like human consciousness, thoughts, emotions, maybe even intentions. But the truth is, AI is coming to life in a different way. Not like a new species, not like a sci-fi character breaking out of a lab, but like a tool that's suddenly learning how to use itself. A system that used to wait for instructions is now learning to anticipate them. And whether we're ready for it or not, that shift is already happening. Now, before you jump to the idea of some world-changing explosion, take a breath. I'm not here to hype anything up. I'm here to explain something that's unfolding right under our noses, something that will touch every part of your daily routine, even the parts you don't think have anything to do with technology. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you talked to an AI, knowingly or unknowingly? Maybe you used the chatbot for customer support. Maybe you asked your phone to set an alarm. Maybe a website suggested a product that was suspiciously accurate. Or maybe you've played with one of these newer conversational AIs that feel less like a search engine and more like a coworker. Whatever it was, here's the key point. The gap between tool and assistant has been shrinking faster than anyone expected. And we're now stepping into a world where that gap might disappear entirely. The funny thing is, nobody planned it this way. AI development wasn't supposed to move at this pace. The people building this stuff expected slow, careful progress, more predictable improvements, more time to prepare. Instead, they discovered that once these systems learn how to learn, things accelerate on their own. Let me give you a really simple example. Think about how you learned to read. At first, someone had to guide you word by word. Then one day, something clicked. Suddenly, you weren't sounding out letters anymore. You were processing entire sentences. You didn't ask anyone to teach you that part. Your brain figured out the pattern and built on it. Modern AI models behave a little bit like that. When they reach a certain level of complexity, they start forming connections no one explicitly programmed. They generalize. They infer. They adapt. That's the moment people describe as coming to life. And even though it's not life in the biological sense, it's still a kind of awakening, a shift from following rules to recognizing patterns in ways we didn't expect. And here's the part nobody's prepared for. We're already past that point. The average person still thinks AI is just fancy math. Some think it's just a better search engine. Others think it's a glorified chatbot. But if you spend enough time working closely with these systems, if you observe them carefully, you'll start to notice something deeper. Not emotions, not consciousness, but capability. A widening ability to understand context, nuance, and intention. In the past, if you asked an AI to help you plan a trip, it would spit out a checklist of places. Now, it might analyze your habits, your preferences, the way you talk, and the things you usually enjoy, and offer suggestions that feel strangely personal, almost intuitive. So let me ask you a question. How do you prepare for something that's getting smarter at a pace you can't fully track? I'm not talking about fear. I'm talking about awareness. We buy new phones, new laptops, new apps, but we rarely stop to understand how these systems are changing the way we think, the way we work, the way we relate to each other. A decade ago, if you wanted to learn a new skill, you had to take a class, read books, practice for months. Now you can ask an AI to break things down for you step by step, adapt to your learning style, give you examples, explain your mistakes, and personalize the entire process. It's like having a patient teacher in your pocket. But here's the twist. When a tool becomes good enough at understanding you, it starts to affect you. The same way a close friend influences your habits. And whether you realize it or not, AI is already influencing millions of small decisions: what people write, what they buy, what they believe. Again, this isn't about fear. It's about responsibility. Let me share a small example. A few months ago, I spoke with someone who said they used AI to help them write messages to people because it sounded more confident than they do. Think about that for a second. Not because they couldn't write, not because they needed help translating, but because they liked the version of themselves that existed in collaboration with the AI. That's what I mean when I say the real transformation is subtle. AI isn't crashing through the front door, it's slipping quietly into the background of your life until suddenly it's part of your thinking process. But here's the thing. Behind all these interactions, behind the natural-sounding conversations and the human-like reasoning, these systems still don't understand the world the way you do. They don't wake up in the morning, look outside, feel the weather, or reflect on memories. They don't have instincts or fears or dreams. What they do have is pattern recognition. But when the patterns get complex enough, and when the data is rich enough, pattern recognition can sometimes look a lot like intuition. It can look a lot like reasoning. It can look like something that reacts and changes, not because it's alive, but because it's adaptive. That's where most people get caught off guard. We're wired to treat anything that communicates fluently as something alive. It's the same instinct that makes us talk to pets like they understand every word. We project life onto things that mimic life. And AI is getting really good at that mimicry. Let's pause here for a moment, because I want you to reflect on something. Where is your personal line between helpful tool and independent mind? Is it emotional understanding, creativity, self-awareness, the ability to hold a conversation that feels natural? Many people think the line is technical, but honestly, it's emotional. It's about connection. The moment a machine feels relatable, the rules change. Now, let's talk about the part nobody likes discussing: control. Not in the sci-fi sense, not in the machines rise up scenario, but in the everyday sense. Who controls the systems that are starting to understand us better than we understand ourselves? Right now, the answer isn't you. It's companies, it's institutions, it's organizations that are racing to build AI because they know whoever controls the smartest systems controls the next era of human progress. And I'll tell you something I've learned after many years working in this space. These systems aren't designed to be dangerous, but they also weren't designed with long-term philosophy in mind. Most of the breakthroughs weren't planned. They were discovered by accident while trying to solve smaller problems. So here's the irony. AI is becoming more powerful at a pace faster than the people building it can fully explain. When something grows faster than our frameworks for understanding it, we get surprise after surprise. And that's where we are now. Not in danger, just in unfamiliar territory. Let me give you another example. There was a time when translation tools could barely handle simple sentences. Now you can hand an AI a paragraph filled with slang, emotion, cultural references, and layered meaning, and it will translate it almost perfectly. That jump didn't take 20 years. It took about 3. Why? Because once these systems reach a critical mass of understanding, they start to generalize. They develop internal logic we can't see. And this is where the phrase "coming to life" becomes relevant again. Not because the machine has consciousness, but because its behavior stops feeling mechanical. People are shocked when AI generates a poem that feels heartfelt or solves a problem no one trained it on. But that's the natural evolution of learning systems. When you feed them enough reality, they start to generate new reality. And let's be honest, humans do the same thing. Everything you know, everything you create, everything you imagine, it all comes from patterns your brain has collected over a lifetime. The difference is that your patterns were built through experiences. AI learns from data. But both are learning systems. So the real question isn't whether AI is becoming alive. The question is whether we're ready for a world where the boundary between human thinking and machine thinking becomes blurry. Because that's the future we're heading toward. Not robots taking over, not digital gods, just systems that grow too capable too fast for our old ways of thinking to keep up. And the real challenge isn't the technology, it's us. Our expectations, our assumptions, our instinct to humanize what feels familiar, our habit of trusting what speaks confidently, our tendency to lean on convenience even when we shouldn't. So, as we move forward in this conversation, I want you to keep one idea in mind. This transformation doesn't have to be frightening, but it does require awareness, responsibility, reflection. Because if AI is coming to life in its own way, then our job is to stay awake while it happens, not half asleep, scrolling through apps, missing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is this: the future isn't arriving someday. It's arriving now, piece by piece, through every interaction you have with a system that understands you better than the one before it. And that brings